Pecha Kucha 234, 100 eyes. So I had an idea to do something productive for a change, and I immediately didn't want to do it. You might have guessed. Draw 100 eyes, try and figure out what's going on, bank that shit in my head, and then use it going forward. I did. What was I trying to figure out? What do I know? So I decided to start drawing what I think I know, then compare and contrast it with trusted sources, then redraw what I think I know, see if there's a difference. Keep doing this until I'm actually good at it. I don't think that's too complicated, so what do I think I know? It's difficult to say. I feel like I know everything I need to know, how the eye fits under the eyelids, how the eyelids fit in the eye socket, a lot of proportionate and relative things relating to the rest of the face, which isn't really all that relevant to me just focusing on eyes. I can't remember what the big white bit of the eye is called, but that's just a Google search away. But the average way the eyelid curves, the upper eyelid, the way the eye sits in the eye socket from the front, I feel like I've got these things. Side view, on the other hand, I almost never draw profile face shots. I don't even really know how the face sits on the skull from this angle because it takes up so little of the head. This is mostly accurate, but it's really one of the major contentions here is I want to be able to draw aesthetically pleasing eyes, as well as anatomically correct as I would like them to be, manga notwithstanding. 3/4 view is the hardest one because it's two eyes at different angles, and you can play around with, how extreme you get with the eye that's the furthest away from the camera. Scott Harris, in his Udemy course I have, said something specific about drawing the eye that's kind of blocked by the nose and the brow furthest away from the camera. I know what it was he was saying, but I've forgotten what it was that you're supposed to do in the last couple of weeks, so that's maybe prompting this entire thing. So after just kind of putting down what I think I know, I went to my Andrew Loomis book, which is the last book I looked at, drawing the head and hands. And he doesn't spend too much time looking at the actual appendages of the face, but this is the stuff I found that was quick to draw. So he's very much about, eyelids are 3D, the eye sits underneath them. I had wondered if maybe an interesting way to draw the eye is to draw the eyelids and then, the eyes are just the thing in the middle. It's not the way I've been copying the reference imagery. It's something I might look at. I don't know, it could be useful if I'm drawing skulls and then putting eyes in eye sockets and then adding eyelids. So then I moved on to Bern Hogarth. He's got, in dynamic anatomy, a lot more coverage of the eyes from different angles, and you can clearly see if I've depicted any of these things, especially when you start seeing the noses I've done. There's a Roman Greco statuesque leaning to the way he creates his forms, especially when it comes to the massive nostrils on the noses. There's a lot more going on with the way he's kind of drawing the upper and lower eyelids, and he makes a contention where the lower eyelid has a sharper, shallower curve than the upper eyelid. And I feel like this is one of the major things I can consciously say I learned this week. But it wasn't always clear looking at his work what was going on with the lower eyelids, because you would assume that the eye sits behind the eyelid. The eyelid has a rim, and that's all there is, because that's all there is. But sometimes it felt like he had extra lines. Didn't really simplify things, but it was food for thought, and I'm very sure it was valuable. So then I went on Google to look at some actual people eyes. Google is not the best reference source for anything, and I know better than to simply type in eye. But ultimately, I didn't think there was anything wrong with just doing some random eyes from humans, real people, real photos, and just seeing if I felt a disconnect between the kind of academic approach of Loomis and Hogarth and just drawing real pictures of real eyes. I was a little bit distracted by the podcast I was listening to, and then I switched to copying some of Jason Fabrock's art from the Three Jokers, the Batman book I've spoken about in the past. Because ultimately this is where this is supposed to be going. This is supposed to be real world knowledge to apply when I'm doing my comics. A lot of this is forward facing, and I'm really just trying to figure out mostly how the eye fits under the eyelids and how the eyelids fit under the eye socket, even though the idea is I already know this. So most of these are Bruce Wayne close-ups, almost entirely. And I do think there is a great value in using direct photo reference, using other people's abstraction of reality as a simplification to figure out what's important and what isn't, and kind of bouncing back and forth and trying to find your own approach to these things. This stuff is all just me seeing how do I feel about eyelids now. I feel like this Joker's got everything's terrible about it except the eyes. But that's fine, because that's really all I'm here to do. Bruce Wayne's maybe looking a little too Superman there with that super fucking neck, but whatever. And then something that probably underpinned my intention on doing this as well was those terrible Street Fighter mugshots I did last week. Ryu and Ken are still awful. But I think Ken's eyes are a little bit more dynamic than they were when they were clearly just like 2D, I don't know, marks with the last image. Guile's looking alright, everybody else, well, Chun-Li's just looking how I was feeling at this point. I was putting a lot of work in a short amount of time, and I did feel like I was powering up, but I don't know if I was leveling up. I was certainly getting plenty exhausted. Yeah, I think this was a good idea. I'm glad I did it. It's very interesting from a psychological perspective to see how immediately not only I tried to stop myself from doing this, but how life tried to get in the way as well. I do think I want to build directly on this next week. I think I need to do a lot more three-quarter view stuff and a lot more extreme angle stuff, because I think the important thing is to do enough of this that I don't know it in my head, which I think is the case, but I know it with my hand, and I think that's the secret. So we'll see where we are this time next week. But that's the end of Pecha Kucha 234, and I'll see you then.